We now begin the United Kingdom of Israel, in which Israel enters their golden age. Now, between Moses and Joshua and the kings were the time of the judges that we studied in class. Now, the last of those judges was Samuel. We want to spend just a moment thinking about this significant and godly judge. We need to start by giving a shout out to his incredible mother, Hannah. Hannah was barren. She went to the tabernacle to worship, and she prayed with such intensity that she was crying and shaking, and the priest thought she was drunk, but in fact, she was praying out of a desperate heart. And God blessed her with a son, Samuel. She dedicated him to the Lord, and Samuel grew up in the tabernacle. Now, why was God setting the stage for Samuel? Why a new leader? It was because the current high priest, who was leading Israel at the time, had very wicked sons. High priest Eli's wicked sons. What did they do? They disrespected the offering. Disrespect for offering. And they committed adultery with the women who served at the tabernacle. Now, these two sons are to be examples and leaders for Israel, and they could care less about spiritual leadership. When people brought offerings, offerings had very specific rules about burning the fat. However, meat is more tasty with a little fat, i.e., most of you like bacon. So the priests would force the people to not follow God and burn the fat, and they would take the priest share early. The priests always received a share of the meat, and they would take their share early before the fat was burned off. And then adultery, obviously a gross sin. And for this, the consequence of the sons was death. This is a much longer story. In brief, Israel was in a war. They had Eli's sons bring the Ark of the Covenant into battle, kind of like a good luck charm. However, the Philistines in the battle, killed Eli's sons and stole the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, though, was a problem in the hands of the Philistines. They got sick and had lots of plagues, and eventually they returned the Ark to Israel. So with the death of Eli's sons, as Samuel grew up, this provided opportunity for Samuel to take the lead in Israel. Samuel points to Jesus. And how does he do this? He does it in a very unique way. Both Samuel and Jesus are prophets, and they speak God's word. Both are priests, deals with sin, and both of them are rulers, judge/king. Both are rulers. They rule in a godly way. Obviously, in the Old Testament, there are prophets, there are priests, there are judges, there are kings. But Samuel is all three at once, and Jesus is all three as well. Now, the people wanted a king. And make sure you write down there's no actual line, but write down that Saul was the first king. The people wanted a king, and so God directed Samuel to appoint Saul as the king. The good for King Saul is that he was called by God as king. Samuel anointed him as the king of Israel. And Saul wasn't even looking for political power in the nation. He was just living his life and was called by God as king. After he was anointed as king, everybody had a big party, and then they left and went home. There was no palace, no royal administration, no protocol. People didn't even know what to do, so they all went home. But then the Ammonites attacked Israel, and God used Saul to gather an army together and defeat the Ammonites. When this happened, Saul became the king in the hearts of the people, not just because Samuel said. So this is the good. Now for the bad of King Saul. Before a battle, he took over the priestly role with the sacrifice. He was the king, not the priest. And when Samuel delayed coming to the battle, Saul took matters into his own hands and offered the sacrifice. When Samuel arrived, he told him that this was sinful to do such a thing. During a battle, he foolishly makes the soldiers fast. This is not running fast, this is fasting from food. So now Saul is trying to be super spiritual and makes the soldiers not eat food before the battle. When you're engaged in a highly physical activity, not a wise idea to fast from food before you begin that activity. And then, lastly, after a battle, King Saul disobeys God. After a battle, King Saul disobeys God. Samuel told Saul to defeat the Amalekites, to kill everyone in the army, and to kill all of their animals. Well, Saul saved the king and saved the best animals. When Samuel confronted him on this disobedience, King Saul said, well, I'm doing it for God. We'll use the animals as sacrifices. To which Samuel replied a very famous line that rebellion, a very famous line, to obey is better than sacrifice. And so as Samuel leaves Saul after this disobedience, God calls Samuel to find someone else to anoint as the new king of Israel. And who will that be? Next time, we'll find out. Thanks, and goodbye. Well, friends, hope you enjoyed the videos on Ruth, Samuel, and King Saul. Just wanted to end with a little shout out to the trees and encourage you to get outside, enjoy the fresh air, the approaching spring, and the birds and the trees. Hope you're doing well, and we will connect another time. See you later. Bye-bye.